mocking Jesus Christ, and the Republican Party, GOP, they think they're God's only party anyway. They simply can't say our president messed up. And then when Riley Gaines, who I don't agree with on much of nothing, Jason Whitlock, who I don't agree with on absolutely anything, when they have the audacity to come out and chastise the president of the United States, he chastises them back.
But he pulled it down. When you say he won't admit it, he did pull it back down.
But who is in charge of the man who's in charge of the free world? If he can put out things and then be like, what? He can't have someone in charge who can do that. He needs to at least have a team around him that can stop him from putting up the wrong
He's the president of the United States. He can put whatever he wants up. You're not in charge. You can't tell him what to do.
That's the attitude.
But that's he can't.
No, that's the problem. No, go ahead.
Only a piece of fact, though, that he did it. He stayed up for 13 hours.
Well, I'm just saying, she keeps saying, who's going to stop him from doing this?
Well, I think,
The military, people are supposed to stop.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. You've been trying to jump in. It's like double dutch.
No, that's the problem. No, go ahead.
Only a piece of fact, though, that he did it. He stayed up for 13 hours.
Well, I'm just saying, she keeps saying, who's going to stop him?
10 years. If you ask Republican voters, back in the first term, the first thing they tell you they don't like about Donald Trump is the tweets back when it was Twitter.
Right.
The tweets. You can't count on 15 hands how many times his social media has gotten him in trouble, and yet he can persist because this is something that
But don't you think
No, it's not okay. It's just a feature of how he is, and I wish they had a more disciplined Trump shot.
I think you're right. Like, look, there's a polling this earlier this year. 61% say that Trump doesn't share their values. 64% say he does not have the right temperament to be president. So you're right. Americans see him for who he is. But I think the issue right now is on the importance of the things that he's sending these messages about. It's not just calling his political opponents names. He's threatening to wipe out a civilization in the middle of a war. And then he's getting into a tit for tat, which we'll talk more about in a little bit, with the Pope, and then sending out an image that even his own supporters are saying, don't do that. I mean, Riley Gaines' comment was, a little humility would serve him well. God shall not be mocked. But it's the why. It's the stuff that he's doing it on that makes a difference.
I do think there's a little. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I actually don't have much to say. I think everybody's right. I think Riley Gaines is right, that we wish the president would exercise a little bit more discretion. He cannot do that. He refuses to do that. And then folks like J.D. Vance come around and say, well, this is what's best about him. It does fuel his ego.
But I also think that we're not clearly acknowledging the fact that it's getting worse. And I had a great aunt, Jenny Marie. She was the matriarch of our family. And she was 88 years old and still driving. And then she used to come to church and park in the front. And then the day she hit the pastor's car, my dad had to go take away the keys. Right? Because it just progressively got worse.
Is this going to be an Article 25 discussion again? You guys are talking about Article 25?
No. So I have two concerns. One is that the president, I believe, lacks discernment, and I think that's getting worse. The second thing is, you won't call a spade a spade. And the fact that if you can't call what he did sacrilegious, which is clearly the definition of sacrilegious, I think that would be my second problem.
Well, obviously, I wouldn't have posted it out there, and I think President Trump realized he shouldn't have pulled it down.
But can you be critical of him?
I also
sure. I don't think you should have posted it.
Also,
why not apologize? Why not admit I did something?
That's very good.
I think part of it is in politics, when you start apologizing, you run into problems. I think that's the issue.
That is not okay. Just to be clear,
but in Christianity, when you start apologizing,
hold on a second. Just to be clear, it is not true that in politics, when you apologize, things start to go wrong. That the only person who believes that is Donald Trump, and he is wrong about that. In politics, it is okay to acknowledge mistakes. That's actually what most politicians do. The fact that Trump doesn't do it is not it's not a virtue, Al. I mean, it's not a virtue. And why, by the way, is it that Trump needs to post something first, see the backlash, to realize that it was wrong?
Well, as was said, he's been posting now for 12 years.
Yeah, but does he have the judgment to know that it's wrong before he posts it?
Yeah, I think he does. I mean, this was done at, 3 in the morning, I think? So
what was going on at 3 in the morning at the White House?
He thinks it's cool. Like, he posts this thing where he's dressed up as Robert Duvall in Apocalypse Now, going to war with Chicago. He thinks it's cool.
But also at 4 a.m. on Easter Sunday, he was also posting about committing a genocide. Like, you can't decouple them. And all I'm saying is, when you look at them together, and when you look at them not in exclusivity but together, you have a president of the United States who is getting older by the day.
I really think we should make this distinction between being provocative and blasphemous with making making threats against an adversary in war that you've interpreted to mean breaking the nuclear pact, which I think is an interpretation of
I'll take a win.
You just said a lot of things there now. Okay, we gotta. We're gonna get to the next part of this conversation because it's related to this. Speaking of religion, the leader of the free world takes on the head of the Catholic Church, who is refusing to back down. We'll debate next.